I'm Sal Robinson. I'm the Lucy Ricciardi Assistant Curator in the Department of Literary and Historical Manuscripts here at the Morgan. And today we're looking at the manuscript of Lady Susan, a novel by Jane Austen. This is the only surviving manuscript of a complete novel in Jane Austen's hand. For none of the novels by Austen, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, do the manuscripts survive. Jane Austen was a British novelist who lived in the south of England from 1775 to 1817. She didn't start publishing until the 1810s, and the novels that she published during that period were fairly popular. They were published anonymously, so her readers during her lifetime didn't know who she was. Austen wrote novels where the protagonists were female, and they were social satires about the gentry that was a sort of educated upper class in England who were not part of the aristocracy. And these are novels that are very witty, perceptive about human behavior. As a reader, I've always understood them to be novels about people changing their minds, realizing they were wrong about something. And that's their kind of enduring power. The Morgans were devoted Austen readers. And Jack Morgan, J.P. Morgan's son, was always on the lookout for an Austen manuscript. When Jane Austen died, her sister Cassandra inherited all of her literary effects. The manuscript of Lady Susan passed through a number of dealers, and in 1947, Bell Green purchased it. Austen scholars believe that the Lady Susan manuscript is probably written in the 1790s and then recopied by Austen in 1805 or later. This work wasn't published until 1871 in the second edition of a memoir published by Austen's nephew, James Austen Leigh. As an epistolary novel, that is a novel written in letters, it's definitely related to earlier writings. I think Austen probably considered it insufficiently finished. It's in some ways more of a sketch than the fuller novels. Its central character, Lady Susan Vernon, is a master social manipulator who is a recent widow and comes to stay with her brother in the country and immediately starts to work on the characters in the country house for her own advantage. I think there's an idea that Jane Austen's novels are about balls and gentility and tea drinking, but this main character is vicious. She's also a horrible mother. She's always calling her daughter Frederica a tiresome girl. And yet, at the same time, one of the reasons she's so attractive is that she doesn't ever apologize in any way for her desire to run the world around her. One of her long-running schemes is trying to marry her daughter off to somebody rich and suitable. At one point she says, "I am tired of submitting my will to the caprices of others, of resigning my own judgment in deference to those to whom I owe no duty and for whom I feel no respect. I have given up too much, have been too easily worked on, but Frederica shall now find the difference." She also is exchanging all these letters with her friend Alicia, who lives in London, and they are kind of plotting the way they want things to work. But Alicia is married, and Lady Susan writes to her and says of Alicia's husband, "My dear Alicia, of what a mistake were you guilty in marrying a man of his age, just old enough to be formal, ungovernable, and to have the gout, too old to be agreeable, and too young to die." Ouch. This manuscript has lived a long and complicated life. It was originally written by Austen in a small bound notebook, and then sometime before 1898, it was cut out of that binding and put in a kind of luxury collector's binding with the text of Lady Susan, and then it came to the Morgan, where it was disbound in 2009. It's a very humble little stack of papers, right? It really looks like something that you could sit down and read in an hour or so. I think the value of literary manuscripts, though, is that it takes away the sense of finality that print gives. When you see the manuscript, you can see the odd punctuations, the strange spellings, the fact that it's something being created by a person. It brings you very close to the writer. Where I think the value of the Morgan lies is that there's a lot of things that we don't know about this manuscript. There are still questions. And the Morgan makes it possible for us to look at these things And the work of scholarship is the work of continuing to think. So for me, that's what's really exciting. Basically, to work in a library full of mysteries.